Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of MSME Masterclass. I am privileged to introduce our esteemed speaker for today's masterclass on MSME financing trends for 2025. Mr. Pravin Goel is a distinguished professional with over 30 years of extensive experience in market development, R&D, and in engineering across diverse industries. He currently serves as the CEO of J Steel Systems, where he has been leading strategic initiatives focusing on entrepreneurship, innovation, and stainless steel solutions. Mr. Goel's expertise extends to global organizations such as LG Electronics, where he was AGM R&D planning, overseeing product lifecycle management, manpower planning, and cost optimization. During his 8-year tenure at Gillette, he played a key role in capacity expansion projects and industrial engineering, driving lean management practices and ISO 14001 implementations. Beginning as an engineer at Swaraj Mazda and later as a senior engineer at Gross Beckett Asia, Mr. Goel has consistently demonstrated his ability to innovate, optimize processes, and lead impactful initiatives. Today, Mr. Goel will share his deep insights into the evolving landscape of MSME financing, focusing on trends like digital financing, alternative credit systems, and ESG-driven financial solutions. His expertise and visionary outlook make him an invaluable voice in shaping the future of MSME growth. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Pravin Goel. Welcome to our MSME Masterclass, sir. We're thrilled to have you today with us.
Thank you, Amrita, for this nice introduction.
All right, sir. So with that, we will begin our session with our first question. What are the most significant challenges Indian MSMEs face in accessing finance today?
Yeah, today I'll give you the perspective from my own side, from the MSME side, how they face issues in getting the funding when they don't have enough knowledge or enough support to go into the business. I started my journey around 12 years ago when I introduced this product in India, and I needed investments to start the marketing and create inventories and set up a manufacturing unit. For this, I had to look for the working capital, and I visited many financial institutions, including SIDBI and banks. SIDBI said you need to have a 3 years established business for them to consider funding for the manufacturing equipment finance. Banks said they needed collateral to extend the funding, and at that stage, I didn't have enough collateral to give it to the banks. So I had to depend on my own funds to start the business. Bank's perspective is that it is a new enterprise and it has high risk due to very limited credit history. Not much documents are available with me to give the confidence about the viability of the business to the banks also at that time. Another thing is I needed to prove to them the genuineness of funds requirement, whether they will be used for the business or they may be siphoned off, which has been the trend at that time. Also, another point of bank was to ensure that the cash flow is sufficient to make the repayment easy. Bank also needed to see the customer profile. What are the customers? What type of strength they have? But it being a new business, I had very few customers, and the history was not sufficient to make the banks extend funds. Also, the bank statement that had erratic cash flows because most of my own money was invested, which went into working capital. So not a good credit history at that time. So from all these things, we see that the issues that MSME face initially are they being small businessmen with low access to specialized financial staff who can make the project report for them. This is a very big issue. Owner himself may not be financially literate with the banker's term, so he has difficulty in understanding the requirements of the bank. Even I being a MBA, I could not understand the banker's requirement at that time. And I had to go through the experience of 2 to 3 years to understand the banker's needs and the financial terms that are used. Another point to be noted is that MSME funds requirement is small as compared to the bigger corporates. So it is very expensive for the business owner to prepare a comprehensive project report, as neither he has the skill nor he can use outside third parties, which may be expensive also, and he may risk sharing business information with them, which are prone to misuse in future. Also, we have to keep in mind that most of the MSMEs have very low entry barriers. They have simple processes, and the technologies are either easily available, and maybe they are supporting some large companies. So they are prone to competition, which can easily eat into their market. So what we understood was that the MSME owners have to become financially literate when they start their business. They need to convert their business profile into documents that the bankers can understand. They need to work with the credit managers to give him confidence about the genuineness of the fund requirement and the viability of the business.
Got it. Now, sir, could you also tell our attendees how has the financing landscape for MSMEs evolved over the past few years?
Well, I have seen a lot of changes happening in the financial landscape in the last decade or so. Initially, there was total paper-based documentation. So you had to move with a lot of files here and there. This has changed to a digital documentation process. The cash-based economy has transformed into a digital economy now, with the GST-based billing, online invoicing systems, e-way tracking system, digital payments. So everything is now digital. And this has helped in ensuring that the genuineness of the transactions are there. The proof is available with the bankers, and they can very easily assess the credit worthiness of the customers they are working with. Also, a lot of documentation has been linked, like Aadhaar, PAN card, GST numbers, they are all linked together. So manipulation is very difficult. Fake documentation creation has now become a thing of the past. Also, what we see is lenders have enough tool to check the credit worthiness of the customers. This has helped in faster decision making. And also we see the accountability of the bankers is improved, and by the standardization of the SOPs for the assessment. Earlier, the discretion was there with the bankers, which has reduced considerably. So we see that the process has standardized and moving towards the benefit of the MSMEs. Also, government is now focusing on supporting the MSMEs. They have come with new schemes like Mudra, PSB 59, CGSTME, etc. Also, they are now setting targets and monitoring the lending institutions. So we can see that the good days are going to come for the MSME and help them in their growth. What I was saying was, another factor is we have seen that the Indian economy is growing very fast. And the institutions, they also have a lot of funds to disburse, unlike in the earlier time when we were considered a third world or poor country. So purchasing power of Indian economy has also increased. Also, there is a accountability in the lending institution, easy availability of the information across. This has made economy ripe for the MSME growth. This is my take on it. But some factors are there which need to be addressed, which are the judicial mechanisms to enforce the contract management. This is something which we still lack, despite a lot of progress in other areas. Also, what I see is that the lending process needs to be de-risked. And we need to create a separation between the corruption-based decisions and genuine business decisions, which should enable bankers to decide on the funding of MSMEs, because their requirements are much smaller as compared to large ticket size for large corporates, which are prone to a different type of decision-making process.
So according to you, what changes in MSME financing can businesses expect in 2025?
India is experiencing the fastest growth throughout its history, as against the gloomy scenario the world over we are seeing. So I would say that India now needs to capitalize on this opportunity, which is available to it for the first time in last many centuries, I would say, right? Because of our historical things when we were being ruled by a different type of countries and empires. So government has to move into the role of enabler of MSME growth. And this is important because which will help in the government's objective also of employment generation, raising the living standards of its citizens, make in India objectives, also in developing critical technologies locally rather than depending on outside for everything. Another important factor is to improve the infrastructure which is required. And to achieve this, I think the government has to support the MSMEs and help in getting them access to the fund for starting up and for the growth. What I think is that government should help in setting lending targets for the financial institution to specific sector MSMEs. They should share the business lending risks by creating some instruments which are easy to implement, something similar to Mudra or CGSTME, where government is also taking some risk, credit risk, and supporting the fund dispersal. Also, another point which I feel is to increase the credit limit against the collaterals. Right now, say if they are willing to fund 80% against the value of the collateral, maybe they should increase to 120%. Something which is similarly done in the credit card companies, where they don't have much collateral, but they check the financial flows, they analyze the status, and based on that, they give credit. Something similar has to be done to the MSMEs, right? Which will help in sustainability for their business growth.
Absolutely.
Also, yeah, right.
Sir, how effective have government-backed schemes like CGT, MSE and Mudra loans supported for MSMEs?
Government has taken the initiative to create CGSTME and Mudra loans, but some issues still remain. First is not many people know about the availability of these schemes. The target segment may not be aware. It may be widely publicized, but the people who exactly need to use those schemes, they may not be communicated about the benefits. Also, the documentation process still is very difficult for the abilities which a common small MSME owner possess. So they have to take help from the experts to fill the basic documentation. It is also due to the lower financial literacy among the MSMEs. And still, bank prefer to collateral-based funding only, as they don't incline to take the risk, which I have also experienced. If the option is available for collateral-based funding and CGSTME funding, they will demarket the CGSTME and go for the collateral-based by saying the interest rate is lower or something, which in the long run will not help in the growth of the MSME, because MSME has a limit to the collateral-based funding, where he can give collaterals. To grow beyond that, the CGSTME and other type of funding needs to be given to the bank, to the MSMEs. Also, one thing I like to say is that the database is now available, and government initiatives have created enough reliable data, including the GST billing, bank statement, income tax statement, which are online and easily accessible, which should be used as the basis of credit rating rather than the traditional documents, which are prone to misinterpretation. And also they have been used negatively in the past.
Correct. So how do macroeconomic factors like interest rate fluctuations and inflation affect MSME financing?
I would say that MSMEs are at the lowest of the ladder among the companies, corporate world. The strength of MSME lies in reducing the cost of goods and services which are supplied to the large companies. In this, they have to endeavor by reducing cost in the whole cycle. And one of the factors is the finance cost. So any adverse effect on the interest rate definitely affect the MSMEs in a bigger way because they have the least control over the pricing to tackle these changes. And high working capital is required by them, which affects the profitability directly. I think that government has to create some mechanism to provide stable interest rate to the MSMEs. Rather than making them go under and take the full impact of these fluctuations, which will result in the MSMEs going under at certain stage of the businesses. Most countries we see are actively supporting their industries in various ways so that their country prospers, and we expect the same from our government. Okay, I think government policy will be a major issue in the coming budget, which should help in MSMEs overcome all those crucial issues.
Got it. Now, sir, moving on to the key trends part. What key trends will shape the MSME financing ecosystem in 2025?
This year, MSME financing will get major boosts and changes in the budget. This is what my expectation is. First one will be to get the easier access to the funding based on the business credentials only. I think paperwork will need to be simplified. More reliance on the data generated by the GST, because this is a proof of the actual business being done. Bill discounting scheme should get more focus from the government and supported by them in the working capital management for the MSMEs. There should be an improvement in the scheme, which we had recently come across, whereby MSMEs are supposed to get their funds within 45 days, but it's not been very effective as of now. Also, I think many new financial instruments will be introduced, like the invoice discounting, crowdfunding, venture capital, and a lot of other new startups are coming into the market to provide funds to MSMEs. So we need to see how they get strengthened and help in the MSME businesses.
Absolutely. And so, how are digital lending platforms influencing MSME financing, and what should businesses consider before using them?
Well, digital lending platforms are mainly for small ticket size loans. They are basically for personal loans and more suitable for online businesses and retail businesses. I think they may not be suitable for the manufacturing business, as the financing requirement is different. It is more into working capital management, which has longer tenure, or equipment investments. So it's not suitable for digital lending. But the concepts being generated by these digital lending platforms, they can be used by other financial institutions to create simple systems which can help in disbursing the funds for MSME also. Various factors which help in credit evaluation are like the repayment histories, business growth happening as captured by the GST billing system. So these information, when they start getting used, they will help in simplifying the lending process.
How can MSMEs benefit from alternative funding sources such as P2P lending and crowdfunding?
Yes, crowdfunding and P2P lending, these are new instruments which are coming to India. These Funding mechanisms are based on the borrower's marketing abilities to sell the dream at a global level and access the funds from wider fund providers rather than the traditional approach, which limits physical approaching maybe 2 or 3 institutions for the funding requirements. Now, these platforms have developed tools which makes business story very effective and reach multiple people. But what I'll say is these are still in the nascent stage and they will be needing time to penetrate into the MSME usage. And what I feel is that these instruments are not applicable for traditional businesses, but for some new age business models, which can be interest to the potential fund providers, either they being the next big thing, a novel concept, or have some proven models used elsewhere in the world. So probably these type of businesses will interest the crowdfunding and P2P lending rather than the traditional businesses.
Got it. Now, moving on to the advantages part of it. What are the advantages and risks of invoice discounting for small businesses?
Yes, invoice discounting, this is going to be one of the biggest and most important instruments for managing the working capital needs of MSME. You see, most of the MSMEs, they face the problem in financing their purchases as money is stuck in the receivables. And MSMEs are at the disadvantage in securing the loans but they have to finance the large corporates by agreeing to the large repayment tenures of the large corporates. What I feel is invoice discounting provides funds without resorting to traditional loans. It doesn't lead to any change in the debt profile of the company, but it enables them to run the business even during the period of unpaid invoices before the due dates. So they get to have major portion of the funds which are receivable maybe 30 days or 45 days or 6 months available to them to continue their business needs. Maybe it is purchasing raw material or making payments. So also what I feel is that now everything becoming digital, the discounting can make use of AI-based systems to check the genuineness of the invoices and start funding based on discounting rates. It is still, I'll say, in a development stage. It is not being very widely used, but I feel they have very high potential in the near future.
Okay. So moving on to my next question, which is how suitable is venture capital for MSMEs, especially for smaller enterprises?
Venture capital model, I feel, is not suitable for MSMEs, which have more traditional business models. You see, venture capital, they are looking for the big ideas, which are rapidly scalable. Returns should be able to be multiplied easily with the increase in scale. And another thing is venture capital is always looking to exit profitably from the business and reclaim the investment he had invested in a limited time period. So these objectives are different from the requirements of a smaller enterprises. They are not able to provide any of the results we mentioned above. The MSME businesses are not highly scalable and the returns are limited as they are generally dependent on the other businesses, larger corporates, and they are limited in their geographical reach also, right? So MSMEs are looking for a long-term fund, and these tenures VC may not be willing to fund. So their objectives seem to be much different.
Got it. Now, when it comes to factors, what factors should MSMEs consider when collaborating with financial technological companies, fintech companies for financing?
Fintechs is the new buzzword and it is being rapidly adopted in the MSME ecosystem, I'll say. It has been driven by the digitization and mobile penetration across the population. Fintechs differ from the traditional approach that they use data source and algorithms to analyze the finances and cash flows of the MSMEs. Based on this, they are able to extend the working capital need of the companies at competitive rates. And also, they help in customizing the payment terms for them. But to take the benefit, MSMEs also need to prepare themselves for some factors. Like, first is they have to move into a digital bookkeeping system, and they need to have accounting tools. Go for simple accounting softwares which can be operated by the owner also with little training. This helps in giving the confidence to the fintech companies in analyzing the business. Also, these things help in real-time visibility of the working capital needs of the MSME. It helps in the owner. It helps the owner in getting budgeting done, planning for the future investments, cash flows, inventory management also. Digital payment gateways, collection systems help reduce the dependency on the cash handling. This is another important factor which we have to keep in mind. It helps in creating the credit history for the business. Also, it helps in understanding the receivable cycle. So it helps in improving the cash flow. So the fund requirement can be planned and communicated to the fund providers. I think that the fintech company startups will change the collaborative approach in lending MSME in the near future. Both will work together to support each other and help MSME grow. But MSME also has to check and align themselves with the requirement of these fintech companies, which will help in reducing the cost of borrowing and give access to the easier finance.
Right. Now, sir, how can technology like AI and blockchain improve the creditworthiness of MSMEs?
These fintech companies, to assess the creditworthiness of the MSMEs, are using these new age technologies like AI, blockchain, etc. They collect the data from different sources, multiple sources, including GST systems, then regulatory data availability, and based on that they take decisions much faster, and automated models are available to help in credit manager getting decisions on the financing of the MSMEs. Also, it helps in digital underwriting by the fintech lenders. So they also reduce their risk of lending to the MSMEs. Machine learning systems help in keeping these information updated, and any changes in the profile of the borrowers, these are captured. These factors, they provide some actionable insights of the business and help in minimizing the risk for the funding institutions. It is resulting in a cheaper, more convenient flow of credit to the smallest of the and underserved segment of the MSME. This is what I can say. And in future, various tailored products will be made available by these fintech companies using the AI and other blockchain and other technologies.
Now, moving on to data analytics. So, what role does data analytics play in helping MSMEs secure financing more effectively?
MSMEs struggle in their credit requirements because of some of the common factors. One is the limited credit history, insufficient collaterals, and then dependence on the informal loans. But data analytics, which are being used nowadays, they help the traditional banks as well as the fintech companies in assessing the creditworthiness of the MSMEs by extracting meaningful data from various sources like the bank statement, customer profile, regulatory filings, etc. They also help in real-time assessment of the credit requirements of the MSME, and they can raise the flag in case of any unforeseen developments. GST returns, e-invoicing help in assessing the borrower's creditworthiness. So they help the lenders to predict the repayment behavior of the borrowers. They help in faster credit evaluation and loan processing. They enable a wider reach at the lowest possible cost for the financial institutions. And finally, we can say that they help in preventing the defaults and reduce the NPA for the financial sector institutions.
Okay. Sir, how can digital tools simplify compliance for MSMEs seeking financial assistance?
Digital tools definitely have gone a long way in simplifying the compliances. There has been GST registration and filing systems, income tax online filing, Factories Act, ESIPF, it has become online. Udyam registration has linked to so many other MSME profiles. Also, many other regulatory compliances are there which have become online. What happens is this has made the MSME's creditworthiness visible to a lot of other institutions interacting with them, and this definitely helps in evaluation of these MSMEs whenever they go for financial assistance. Bank and financial institution, they also feel the compliant businesses are more creditworthy if they have had their tax payments, regulatory requirements have been addressed properly. The banks will be feeling more secure in lending to these institutions, these MSMEs. Also, a lot of government schemes have started. All these need the regulatory compliances to be at the forefront for them to take benefits from the government authorities.
Got it. So my next question to you is, what steps should MSMEs take to improve their chances of loan approval from traditional and non-traditional lenders?
The most important steps for the MSME owners is to become financially literate first. They need to understand basics of accounting, basics of budgeting, understanding balance sheets, and then various statements like GST, etc. Then they need to have awareness of the various credit products that are available in the market. Many options which they may not have considered may prove to be more suitable to the business needs, like equipment finance, working capital can be financed by this invoice discounting. So new tools are available to them. Also, they need to be aware of the application process and documentation required, the business strategies as needed by the lenders in evaluating their loans. Another important factor which has happened and should be focused by these MSMEs are to move from the cash-based business to invoice-based receipts and payments, which will help in improving the financial profile of MSME. Then making timely payments to the lenders will and also keeping the credit utilization ratio low. This will help in improving the financial profile of MSMEs. And finally, the correctness in the reports being generated and submitted will help in building the trust between the lenders and the MSMEs.
Understood. So what financial strategies can MSMEs adopt to balance debt and equity effectively?
When the business starts, equity is the only or rather major component in the business. But when the growth is required to be made, equity funding has the limitations. The owner has to go for debt at that stage. Also, it is advisable to move into debt financing because of various benefits. The first and foremost is debts are tax deductible, so it reduces the taxable income. the outflow is reduced. Second is that helps you keep the control on the ownership. Getting fund through that allows us to control the company and not share the control with someone else or the equity provider. Another point to be understood is that debt cost is normally fixed. So financial decisions are easier to budget for. You can calculate the ROI and everything as compared to the equity investment, because there the returns can be different at different stages. But we have to also understand that taking debt is risky. Debt payment can become difficult in case of irregular cash flows. Also, it is very difficult to get debt in the initial phases when the need is the highest and a lot of documentation is required for there. So these are the things the owner has to keep in mind to plan for the business.
Understood. So my last question to you is, how can MSMEs build resilience against economic downturns through better financial management?
The MSMEs have the strength in giving cost savings to the customers, to their customer, whether it is large companies or the direct customers in the retail segment. So they have to keep on reorienting themselves to achieve cost saving in different ways. They need to have some form of debt financing available to them, which can be used in case of fund flow issues. So they should plan for it and keep this credit line open. Maybe not used fully, but should be always available to them to tide over any type of downturns they may face in their business. Also, another thing is they should have some liquid cash available, either through credit line or short-term investments, so that the funds are available in the case of crisis. Working capital management has to be done by them, which is important in building the inventories for future requirements. And what I would say is they need to create a business profile which should be suitable for debt funding, and equity should be available only as a case in case of downturn when the going gets really tough. So first preference should be debt funding, and they should make their business suitable for debt finance, which will help in growth much faster than the equity-based funding. Right? This is something, my thoughts on this.
With that, we've come to the end of today's episode. Mr. Goel, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your invaluable insights with our attendees on such a critical topic, which is MSME financing trends for 2025. We are hopeful that your insights have given some sort of insights to our attendees who are online and who will be watching our YouTube video. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you very much.
For our attendees who are online, if you would like to view the current episode, if you've missed any part of the current episode, or if you want to watch any of our previously shot episodes, please go on YouTube, type JSW1 MSME, and you will find all the episodes uploaded there. Thank you once again, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you.